Right. Once again, I am downstairs. I'm looking after the baby. Hang on, let's turn this microphone volume up. That's a bit better. Yeah, it's my shift to look after the baby. So sorry if the quality and everything is not quite on its usual high standard. Bit of a strange game, that, isn't it? Like there's a real split and difficult set of feelings, I guess, to be had out the back of that. On one hand, I'm looking at this and seeing green shoots of promise. I'm seeing the integration of Saar, Bergvall, Gray. Gray, a player I've wanted to see quite a lot. Quite a few of us have wanted to see quite a lot, see what he can bring to the midfield. Thomas Frank seemingly wanting to put Spurs on the front foot, having learnt from all of the sort of fallout from the Arsenal game, right? So there's definitely positives there. There's definitely green shoots. It's just on a basic football fan level, it's just quite disappointing to lose after we've done so much so well. It's disappointing. I don't think it's on Frank. There were some individual errors. There definitely were that cost us. Maybe a couple from Romero, I would say. Probably one from Saar as well in there. You do have to consider the absolute quality of PSG. And it's a harsh lesson at this level that any sort of mistake is going to be punished. It is going to be punished. It's a cruel learning for a lot of these players. But I'm not livid out the back of that. I'm sad because Spurs have lost. That's kind of how I feel, right? I feel that it would have been nice if our efforts had been recognised. But on a less kind of basic level, I do take heart from that. I appreciate the fact that we've tried to do something different. When the team sheet first came out before the game, I was not particularly happy at all. Do you know what I mean? Like I saw that, I thought, what the hell is he doing? He's lost his mind. But it was actually a pretty balanced side, dare I say. It was a pretty balanced side. It was a good side with a lot of invention. There was a lot of toil there. I mean, we're really being harsh. Like when we sort of talk about PSG's first two goals, we've maybe for the second one, maybe allowed Vitinha to get onto his stronger foot. We've shown him onto that foot. If we're going to be really cruel, but both of those finishes are world class. You know, the other goals, yeah, there's sloppiness there from Tottenham. There's like momentary kind of sloppiness, which maybe against a lot of other sides you can just about get away with. A team like PSG, you just can't, can you? Um, but look, when you sort of shelve the disappointment of Spurs having lost a match in which we've played pretty well at times, you know, there are green shoots there. Um, the thing is, this doesn't mean anything, and I mean that genuinely. This doesn't really mean anything if we go into the Fulham game on the weekend and don't approach that game positively. We don't look to press them as we have done in this sort of fixture. We don't look to press them early doors. We don't look to dominate the game. We don't look to keep scoring because that's what we want. That's I was on Last Word on Spurs yesterday, and Ricky asked me like, what is it that you want to see in the coming games? And obviously, like the big part was a lot more impetus. I want to see Spurs kind of going for games, really trying to, you know, really trying to impress an ideology upon an opposition, not just kind of sitting there trying to stifle their attacks and hit them on the counter or from set pieces, right? But what you also want to see is Spurs actually going into games like Fulham, games that we look with all due respect and all that type of thing, games against teams we should be winning, and actually dominating them, dominating the game, scoring a good few goals, creating a lot of chances. We've got to start doing that. We have to start doing that. And I don't actually let me have a look. I don't actually know what the stats were from tonight. PSG Tottenham. I don't know what our what our XG or anything was from tonight. Let's have a look. 11 shots, 5 shots on target. That's it's quite mad to think we're getting 5 shots on target against PSG when we've been struggling to get any shots on target against, quite a few other teams, right? There's plenty to take hope from there, but we've got this needs to be the sort of starting point. There was some chat on Twitter. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was that said this to me on there, but they were saying that there's every chance that this could be like one of those games. I think they said the Nottingham Forest game in particular, but I think there were a few games under Pochettino's early tenure when, we were sort of caught between playing some of the older established players who perhaps were misfiring a bit. And we were desperate to see more of the sort of hungry younger players coming in. And then there just seemed to be that tipping point, didn't there? And I think it was that Forest game when he was just suddenly like, that's it. I want this energy now. I'm just going to biff off a lot of these older players and just start playing the younger players. Maybe this is one of those moments, a game like this, maybe hopefully he's seen enough that's encouraged him to keep a bit of this sort of youthful momentum in the side, because to this point, we're sort of saying, I think we've extended that courtesy to Thomas Frank, that he's wanted to raise the floor of the team, that he's wanted to, build a stronger baseline, build a stronger foundation, get a bit more solidity in there. But at the same time, there's only so long you can watch that, right? There's only so long you can see sort of Spurs struggling through games, especially when really it's not actually working. Part of our identity as a club is to play on the front foot, isn't it? It's to go for teams. It's quite funny, and it's actually quite sort of it's quite depressing, really. Outside of like, actually, do you know what? Being real, I actually haven't had many Arsenal fans, like mates, who usually dig me out down the years. When we've had Kane and Son and all this, and we've had sort of decent ding dongs with them down the years. When they've beaten us in those times, they've like loved ramming it down my throat. After that North London derby on the weekend, honestly, the overwhelming feedback from my Arsenal fan mates was like, "That was brutal. Like, I've never seen you lot look so meek. Never seen you lot really not actually fight at all. Like, you were terrible. You were awful. Yeah, I feel quite bad for you watching that. Really, that's when it's horrible times. I mean, it's definitely horrible. I don't even want to think about what they might do this season. I can't do that right now. But look, there's I want to see more of this. I want to see more positive intent from Tottenham. Um, I want to see us taking the game to opposition teams. And look, to his credit, that's what he's tried to do tonight in Paris against one of the best teams in Europe. And look, yeah, it's obviously not. It's obviously not. You know, it's obviously not gone that well for us in a results sense. But look, we've done all right. It's just can I now I've done. Can I just say right now I've tried to at least make this effort to like make this more of an actual constructive conversation. Can I just like say it's just not fair, is it? Do you know what I mean? Can I just be a baby about this now? Can I just whinge about this on a level? Like, it's not fair, man. Like, how is it that like we go ahead in the second half, right? And we're sort of like, yeah, go on, maybe we'll actually do all right here. And then obviously it just happens like that, doesn't it? Like in tandem, we're sort of shipping those goals and that kind of, there goes that dream. Banshees of Inisherin sort of feeling starts to sink in as PSG go further and further into the lead. And you start hearing the news from down the road that they're slapping Bayern Munich about. There's that little bit in the back of my head going into these, it was just like, lovely Spurs win. And then, do you know what? Arsenal losing at the Emirates to a Harry Kane brace. God, that'll be a nice little evening for us, won't it? Of course that doesn't happen. Of course that doesn't happen for us, does it? It's not fair. I'm going to wake the baby up. It's not fair. It's not fair. Why can't we just win? Why can't we just be good again? You know? Right, Pochettino had a little rough point at the beginning, right? But then can't we just skip to like the 16, 17, 17, 18 bit when we're just class, you know? Let's in January just buy like, whoever, Adam Wharton. Sounds like Semenyo's going to Liverpool. Bayern are sniffing around as well, so I doubt that one's going to happen in January. I mean, Liverpool got done tonight as well, didn't they? But it's just difficult, isn't it? It's difficult because, I don't want to sit on here and I don't want to bellyache and I don't want to be miserable about Spurs. I do think there's plenty of positives to be had there, you know. But also just allow me like the ground as a fan to just be a bit sad about Tottenham losing, right? You know, I'm a big dreamer with a big imagination, as most of us are, really. Do you know what I mean? Spurs fans, dreamers, and all that type of thing. To dare is to do and all that type of thing. And I can't help, I get excited about this stuff. I get excited when we go 2-1 up in Paris, and I start thinking, oh, maybe this is the start of something. Maybe this is the turning point. And then the cruel hand of reality, like not even the hand of reality, the foot of reality comes comes and kicks his square in the Jacobs, doesn't it? Like it's just come on, why can't it just be fun again? Like, look, we've had 5-6 years now of it. But I mean, look, the Europa League was good, to be fair. You know what's happening. Like, and I was saying this on Twitter. Like, as I said the last time on here, if we're in hell, right, the demons orchestrating this, they're saying, give them the Europa League, right? Give Spurs the Europa League, and then next season, Arsenal get the quadruple. So not only do they have to suffer Arsenal winning everything, it also makes Tottenham's own success look sort of a bit embarrassing in itself. Whatever, whatever. A few questions and, well, just talking points. Oh, we might be in trouble here. We might be in trouble. Go on, darling. T-Pace Coy says sigh, as in, oh, sigh. Eris 7000X says small steps, but at least they're in the right direction. Yeah. Yep, decent. Wilson T6303 says, evening, Jack. Man of the match on last word on Spurs yesterday. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you for watching. Really enjoyed chatting with the rest of the lads, though. Patrick, Johnny, of course, Ricky. Lovely chaps. Eased me in nicely. That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Baz O'Brien says Romero goes through phases of being a complete liability. He does, doesn't he? He is brilliant. He is also a bit of liability. There's probably a reason, isn't there, why no top clubs have ever really made serious advances through him. All right, Atletico Madrid sort of sniffed around for a bit, but really it's a bit of a sideways step, isn't it? And you know what I'm saying. Big Y 1604 says, just feeling so negative about Tottenham recently, and today wasn't much positive in my mind. It feels gutting because I thought PSG were really average tonight and still got 5 goals. I do know what you mean. I sort of feel though, like with PSG, like we sort of saw in the Super Cup, they are so good that, they kind of like, we punished them, and every time we did punish them, they were like, right, we better sort of go up a couple of gears now. It always sort of felt like they were playing a bit sort of in a half step, they were like, let's see what Spurs are about. And then every time we did sort of scuff their nose, they were like, right, put them back in their place, kind of thing. I do think they're a real quality side, and they've got, look, it's just one of these things, isn't it? Like, Spurs, we do have some really good players. I'm not going to sit here and say like we're terrible, because I don't think we are. Like, on a squad basis, I think the squad has been assembled quite poorly. I think we've got quite mishmash of players that maybe don't all fit one ideology or way of playing. But when you look at PSG, when you look at the sort of the individual quality, you look at what they've got available to them. There's no comparison at the moment, really, is there? Um, and that's just that's what being backed by the mineral wealth of a nation state will do for you. Bin Guy says, just buy better players. No more lying. Come on. Yeah, agree. I mean, that's what I've been saying. The Lewis family, don't overcomplicate it. If you want us to win stuff, just keep spending money. It's what Arsenal have done. Arsenal tried to overcomplicate it for years, and now they're not. Now they're just spending loads of money, and they're on the verge of winning the lot. You know. Roberto Camp says, I think we'll smash Fulham on Saturday. I hope so. Owen Lawrence 8806 says El Sakiko against Liverpool, maybe. Could be. And apparently Sonny's coming down to that one, so it'd be nice to give him I mean, let's be honest, we know what it's going to be, don't we? Son's played enough games against Liverpool. He knows exactly how this one goes. Let's be honest. Day Spurs says, I can't stand Frank's tactics where he wants our midfielders to fall back into the back line. It has to be a tactic because all of the midfielders today at one point went into the back line. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really noticed it. I know Sarr does that, and I sort of think Sarr just kind of does that on an individual basis. He's box to box, isn't he? He's often dropping back. He doesn't like to hide. He likes to always be an option there for somebody to pass the ball to. But yeah, I don't know. I'll keep an eye out for that day. 10M Scally says, all right, mate, might be time to give Gray a run in the team. I agree. I think he's very nice on the ball, isn't he? I think, yeah, it was John Bass. John Bass said on the Fighting Cock a few weeks ago, remember when Liverpool signed Jordan Henderson from Sunderland all those years ago? They spent loads of money on him. And at first, he sort of looked a bit dodgy, if you know what I mean. And like it didn't help because Alex Ferguson said something about we had him on trial as a kid and his hips were funny and all this type of stuff. So this sort of thing followed him around, and people were talking about the fact that Liverpool have wasted all this money on this young player. Why are they spending that? And then it didn't take long, did it, for Henderson to be one of the best players they've had in recent years. You can't argue the fact he's captained Liverpool to what, 2 Premier Leagues? No, or one or two, I can't remember. One Premier League title and a Champions League, and he won the lot with them. And so he was saying, look, people are going to dig out Gray because he came for a lot of money, but there's clearly a lot of talent there. And you can sort of get the feeling that with Gray, there might come this point when we just start playing him in the side, and us and other people outside of Spurs are like, oh, actually, this kid is mustard. He's really, really good. He just needed a bit of time to settle in. He needed to find his best position. He needed to find a manager that really believed in him and all that type of stuff. It's funny that Frank hasn't genuinely utilised him immediately, because they were on the verge of getting him at Brentford. I think we swooped in 11th hour and nabbed him away from Brentford. So, I don't know, but maybe that was their data team versus Thomas Frank individually. Conan McGurn says, I'd like to see a consistent run for Udogie. Yeah. Thomas Jones says, a word on Spence. I thought he was brilliant. I'm just saying, are you being a bit sarcastic? I don't know, because I actually thought it was quite a poor game for Spence tonight. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're sort of saying on that one, Thomas, if you can, because that would be yeah, fine. Hacker CPS says 42-433 was definitely much better. Swap out Bentancur for Polinia and Xavi for Gray. Tell for Richie, and that might be our best side. I don't know if I'm dropping Gray out of that one, mate. I don't know, but I do want to see more of Xavi. He genuinely doesn't seem to be that fond of Xavi, does he? It's a funny one. Uh, Dipster Ferrai says, "Bro, that was a good performance, but PSG are a much better team. Our intensity was good today." Agree. Agree. Um, Delpho Chronic says, "Every time we go ahead, the pressing stops. Took too long to make subs because you could see our midfield blowing out of their asses because they haven't played much. Then he makes loads of subs at once. Yeah, his sort of his knack with subs does probably need a bit of work, doesn't it? But we'll see." Um, Football Documentaries says, "Great to see Gray starting the midfield today. Do you think he'll get a run of games now and break up the Polinia Bentancur Stodge Fest? Spurs aside, congrats on the birth of your child, Jack." Thank you very much, sir. Do we think Gray will start more? Gut feeling? No. Sorry to say. I would like to see him start a lot more, but I just kind of feel like at the moment, Frank is always gonna his default setting is Bentancur and Polinia, right? And there might be slight variations of that from time to time. Um, the funny thing is, he might have actually made a rod for his own back tonight. I don't really like to overthink this thing, and I don't like to get too tinfoil hat about this thing, but I'm just going to indulge that side of myself just for a second when I say, who knows? Maybe tonight everyone's been going on at him about Arsenal for the past few days about how negative it was and the sort of team selection he made. Maybe people internally at the club have said, "What are you doing? Why are you playing so negatively?" So he's thought, right, do you know what I'm going to do against PSG? I'm going to start all these young players and I'm going to play in a way that people say I should be playing. And then when we lose 5-6 nil, I can say, "See, that's why I play Bentancur and Polinia." But because it's actually gone quite well tonight, he might have made a rod for his own back. Of course, that is just ridiculous conspiracy talk, but it's quite fun to indulge at every now and again, isn't it? Echo Sonic Music says it'd be nice to reduce the 3+ errors per game to 1 or 2. Yep, fine, or just 0, perhaps. Definitely. James Reed 2236 says, "Just saw a montage of some low fade Arsenal morons loving life. Sickening. It is sickening." Stephen Lucy, thank you very much, mate. Thank you for the I don't know whatever you call it, donation on YouTube there. Stephen says, "Love the pod, Jack. Feel so adrift from Spurs at the moment and find it very cathartic to hear you talk through it all. Heading to the lane for Fulham. Haven't seen us win in person since the Conte North London derby 3-0. Here's to hoping, eh, Coys." Well, I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much. And I do sort of I try my best. I do talk from the heart. Um, I definitely have. Look, we've all got our biases. I definitely have my certain agendas, usually around Pat Matassar. That's you know what I mean. Like I think he had maybe a couple of moments where his decision making wasn't very good and it cost us. But I still think Pat Matassar needs to start most games because I like his energy. I think he helps set the press, to be honest. I think he helps get the ball moving for Spurs. What is it? Transitions play, all that type of thing. But yeah, well, I'm glad you do find it cathartic, mate, and that's what I'm trying to do because when I'm doing this, I'm trying to make sort of sense of it as much myself. So anyway, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that it resonates with you. And hopefully, mate, we can do Fulham as well because we need it, don't we? We need it. We need something a bit. We need like a stand up result this in this run where we can just be like, we are good still. There is a baseline of quality here where we can at least beat teams like Fulham and not have to worry about it. We can go to bed nicely knowing we've won 3-0 and played quite well. I'm just seeing now because the comments keep refreshing. Thomas Jones reckons that Arsenal, when he says them not, I'm guessing he means Arsenal, will be the Liverpool of this season, ease their way into the league but won't win the Champions League. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they're winning the Premier League. I think that's pretty much, barring like something spectacular happening. I just can't see it. Like I think they've got I think they've got the deepest squad. I think they've got the most quality, and they just seem to be. They've arrived at their point at the right time. That's what you need, isn't it? Right? Spurs. We've had those moments in the past, but unfortunately, we've come against a Chelsea that were peaking under Antonio Conte, decent Manchester City teams, and Arsenal have had that as well in the past few years. But it feels like they've managed to keep that consistency. They're staying right at the very top, and City don't seem to have much consistency. Liverpool, I mean, definitely don't. Chelsea are still sort of hanging around like a bad smell, but I think you'd be at a stretch to call them consistent. Um, so I can't see look past Arsenal for the Premier League, Champions League. I mean, look, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like right now, you have to look at them and say they look like the strongest team in Europe. I don't know who beats them, but big occasions, knockout fixtures, you just have to hope. I mean, it's a lot of these are two legs, though, aren't they? It's going to be hard to beat this Arsenal team over two legs. Um, but PSG are decent, even though we did score a good few goals against them. Bayern got done tonight, but they might be able to do something in the knockout stages. Never write off Madrid, even though they have shipped 3 goals to Olympiacos. But it's scary times, man. It's scary times. Like I'm honestly, I'm sat here and I'm trying not to lose my arse about it too much, but I'm sat here thinking we could be on the verge of like an Arsenal treble or quadruple this season. Like, and it's it just doesn't bear thinking, does it? You know. William Gardner, thanks for doing this stream, man. No worries, William. Thank you. Um, Thanks for tuning in. He also says we scored 3 goals from open play. That's massive. Fair. Good point. I'm more positive than I was before this game. Defense is still questionable. Yeah, I think it is like, Romero does have those brain farts in him, doesn't he? But overall, he's still one of our best players, isn't he? Let's see what Vuskovic is about next season, right? Although in saying that, I don't know if any of you saw Nathan A. Clark was not overly positive on Vuskovic. I mean, he's obviously saying that Vuskovic is a very talented player, but I think his point basically was laying the fact that he's not convinced he has the physicality, the speed to make it in the Premier League. He wasn't saying that as a definitive statement; it was just a concern, um, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? But look, I mean, the kid is, I think, statistically the best defender in Europe this year in the top 5 leagues so far. So we'll see. Mr. Big to You says, "Yo, Jack, minor glimpses of joy. I still think the sun will rise with Frank. My my mum might be right though that I'm a nutter. So I don't know, mate. We'll see. Look, I hope you're right. I don't want to. I was talking like so last night. I was sort of asked about my feelings on Thomas Frank by Ricky when I was on Last Word on Spurs. He was saying sort of where are you at? And I was sort of saying I'm not immune to the emotional reaction to games like the Arsenal game, right? And obviously our emotional reaction out of the back of that is Frank hasn't got it. He can't manage at this level. It's too negative, um, so on and so forth. And I was saying like I just equally though, I think if I'm trying to be more rational about it, it's not healthy. Number one, for Spurs to keep cycling through managers. Who do we bring in if we do get rid of Thomas Frank like now? And I think we also need to be having more of these conversations about Thomas Frank once he's got Kulusevski back, once he's got Madison back, once he's got Dom Solanke up top. If we sort of seen this lack of intent, a lack of consistency, once he's got a lot more quality available to him, then I think we need to be having those conversations about binning him off. But right now, this might just be an ugly phase. It might be, but equally, it might not be. It literally might be a bit of a Graham Potter at Chelsea. It might be that he's just not handling the step up. But I think right now we're not in full possession of the facts. So we do have to kind of ride this one out a bit, don't we? I don't know. Um, Brian Park says Frank in until he inevitably starts Bentancur and Paulinho against Fulham. Sai or NW says, realistically, when are we at panic stations with this Frank situation? Feels not too far away. Yeah, I don't know. Panic stations, I mean, it depends. I think, mate, that all depends on what you're expecting from this season. If you want us to be finishing in the top four, then chances are you might be in panic stations right now because, I'm not so sure that is within our grasp. Top five, maybe. We're sort of in, around there. It's hard to say, mate. It's hard to say. I don't know, to be honest with you. Just Keith says, very sloppy at times tonight, but at least we showed something in the first hour. And also, thanks for continually turning up. It must be soul destroying. It's not, it's not. It's like sometimes, I will be honest, like after the Arsenal game, there was that moment when I thought like when the game finished, I was like, I really don't want to do it. I really don't want to do the stream because I don't just want to sit there and whinge and bellyache for an hour or whatever it was after the game. But then I do it and I'm like, it is actually quite cathartic. And games like tonight, like I said, games like tonight, it is annoying. And yeah, there is that, like I say, there is that tantrumy little bit of me that's like, why didn't we win? Why is all this hard work? Why couldn't our sort of the promise that we display tonight just at least been recognised by a draw? Even just a draw, that would have been nice, wouldn't it? But it wasn't to be. And I guess, it's years of being a Spurs fan, isn't it, man? That's the thing. Like we know this feeling. And it's quite, I mean, no, I hate this. Do you know what I was gonna say? I was going to say, if I'd have told myself a few years ago, oh, we'd be playing PSG in the Champions League, and I'd be sad. It's nonsense because it changes all the time, right? Yeah, I get it. Once upon a time we weren't in the Champions League, and now we are. But at the same time, it doesn't make it less annoying. Doesn't make it less annoying to lose games, does it? Yeah. Time Out Films 2009 says, I strongly believe we need to give Frank time and transfer windows to build this team. This is a transition season. I sort of agree in principle. That's the thing. I agree in principle. I do think, however, we do just need to see we need to see a bit more intent from Frank. That's the thing. We need to at least feel like there's more of a plan there. If we'd had more games like tonight thus far this season, I don't feel like we'd be having like these conversations in as pronounced a fashion. Look, and I've sort of said this before, but look, I know people are always going to dig out football fans, and I know obviously some people just like to shout and scream and whatever, and get numbers online by doing that type of thing, or just venting in the pub, right? But I think for the most part, and I actually genuinely mean this. I think for the most part, right, when football fans actually talk seriously about their teams, about the sport, they're actually fairly level-headed and are pretty rational. You can have decent conversations with Spurs fans, and I think most Spurs fans can appreciate the fact the squad is not perfect. It's not terrible. It's not perfect. Needs a bit of work. We're not going to win every game at the moment. There are better teams who are further along in their kind of journeys and all that type of thing than we are, right? But what people want to see at least, though, is that there's some semblance of a plan there, that there's a bit of an idea. And I think just for my money right now, the majority of what we've seen from Thomas Frank is how do we stop the opposition from scoring goals? And that's, you know, when you're the Spurs manager, that's just not really going to fly, is it? Um, I do think he needs more time, probably, but I'm not. The point is, I'm not sat here really sort of. I'm not sat here like digging anyone out or thinking that anyone's been particularly knee jerk or stupid or anything for having serious doubts about Thomas Frank and his, ability to manage Spurs, manage a club at this level. Because we probably haven't seen enough, have we, so far? But you know, we'll see, won't we? There's some. I'm sorry, I'm just reading. There's all these comments coming from like a weird. I think I'm assuming an Arsenal fan or something. But he's trying to be funny. It's not really working. It's kind of standard for them, isn't it? Um, Pirate Dread Roberts. Oh, here's an interesting one. I don't think Frank rates Xavi. Sort of does feel that way a bit, doesn't it? Maybe he needs to, maybe he needs to see a bit more from him in training. Maybe he has concerns about Xavi carrying through from training what he's trying to teach him to a match day. Haven't made that point very concisely or clearly, but still, yeah, he doesn't seem overly in love with him. Doesn't seem overly enamored with him. Um, and that's kind of a shame. I'm sort of on the side of the fence. Like he is already quite a Marmite player, Xavi Simons, but I still tend to feel that when he's on the pitch, we see good things. Do we not? I don't know. I feel like there's glimmers of hope there. Guys, sorry, I'm just looking at the league table. We're down in 16th. Where do the I just want to see where the qualifying positions are in the Champions League and where you actually which teams go into playoff in Champions League. Right, so top 8 go for the next, and then the next. So basically, if you're ranked 9th down to 24th, you go into the knockout rounds. And how many points are we on? 8. Being real, there's no guarantee that there's no guarantee that we're finishing in the top 24. I would like to think that we will. But yeah, who have we got? Slavia Prague. I would like to think we'll beat them. Dortmund, Eintracht Frankfurt, and that's it, isn't it? We should make it for the knockouts. I reckon so. I believe they fall at a really awkward time as well, though. Do the knockout rounds come between like just before an Arsenal game or something like that? I can't remember. I don't know. I can't bother to go into all that. I'm not 100%, but we should go through to the next round, don't we? Hack CPS says Xavi just seems to be settling, not a big deal. Whereas Timeout Film says, I have heard Xavi has attitude issues. There has been talk that he's had attitude issues elsewhere. Not heard anything about it at Spurs. You know, it's tough, isn't it? It's like one man's attitude issues are another man's superstar player, wired differently, wants to be the best, hates not playing. It's tough, isn't it? It's hard to say. I don't know. Three decent, yeah. Kane Armageddon says 3 decent Champions League fixtures up next. Yeah, they probably are. We'll just have to see, won't we? Right, let's. I'll do the players. This is the point where if you're listening to the audio version of this, I say, well, there's going to be some adverts come in. And this is where I say, if you don't like adverts, you can sign up to Rule the Roost on Patreon, patreon.com/RTRpod, where you get every single episode of Rule the Roost podcast completely ad-free. That's with the supporter tier. If you join the Inner Sanctum, you'll also get extra podcasts. I've probably been neglecting the inner sanctum a bit this season. I do apologise, patrons. I hate to blame the baby, but I'm going to blame the baby a bit. Just time is a precious commodity right now. I would like to be doing a lot more for the patrons in the inner sanctum, but thank you. I appreciate it nonetheless. I appreciate all your support. Don't know why I did that weird voice. Right. Lineups. Let's have a look at the players tonight. So Vicario, can't fault him. I don't think he could he have done anything for those goals. I'm not going to be that harsh. Don't think he could have done a decent performance from him, really, wasn't it? Fine, decent enough. Pedro Porro, he was all right, was he? He was all right in an attacking sense. Defensively, am I going to dig him out? No, I don't think so. But I guess the temptation is always there to do that, isn't it? Archie Gray, I thought it was a good showing from Archie Gray. I'd like to see him play more often. The Google's lineup has him sat in the sort of centre back position, but was he playing as a centre back today? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he was he? Maybe he drifted between the two. Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, sixes and sevens, I think at times tonight. I want to see a bit more solidity. Games like that, right? The comparisons are always made. Who do you prefer, Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero, or Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld? Games like that, Jan and Toby really stood up. It's not to say they never made mistakes, but they really, really stood up time after time after time. Those two were properly solid. I still think there are question marks over Mickey and Cootie. But they're younger, they're learning, I don't know. Jed Spence, like I said, I didn't think it was a particularly vintage performance from Jed Spence tonight. I'm not going to lie. I think he sort of got done for one of their goals, at least. Probably a bit harsh, but I do think he got a bit done. Rodrigo Bentancur, decent enough, fairly forgettable. Sorry, I'm rushing through these, but the baby is stirring, so I think I'm going to have to dash off at any moment. Lucas Bergvall, good. I like it. I like his endeavour. I like him as a player. He's not perfect, but he's young. He's learning. I mean, I think the level he is at for his age, what is he, 19 years old? I'm guessing. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, 19 years old. I think the level he's at already is pretty astonishing. It's quite easy to forget quite how young he is. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if he is, yeah, he's younger than Jamie Donnelly. Like Jamie Donnelly, who we still talk about as being a promising young player. I'm not having a dig at Jamie Donnelly. What I'm saying is he's a player from the academy who we acknowledge is a promising young player. He's out on loan. We hope that in a few years' time, he might be a player that's serviceable for the first team. Lucas Bergvall has been playing in the first team since he was 18 years old. He is a remarkable level for a player of his age. But what does come with that is the occasional brain fart, doesn't it? And we get that. But I like Lucas Bergvall's presence quite a lot. Pat Matassar, similar. I just think he never hides. His energy, everything he gives to the team is brilliant. Yeah, okay. Again, like this evening, he's made a mistake, hasn't he? And we've been punished, and that's what happens at this level. You just have to hope that he can learn from that going forwards, and the team in general can just kind of learn from the mistakes that were made this evening. Richarlison, I actually thought was pretty decent tonight. I know I dig him out a lot. I do. And, I stand by a lot of what I say about him. But he does tend to stand up and be counted in Champions. Like when maybe he's just one of those players. Maybe he's one of those players that just relishes the spotlight and everything. but he does tend to be. I'm not going to say he's a big game player as such because I don't think he always is, but he does tend to often do quite well in the Champions League. I just think he likes it. I think he needs to. The thing about Richarlison is things need to go his way pretty early on in the game, and if they don't, his head drops and he tends to disappear a bit, doesn't he? But he's done well tonight. He scored, so fair play to him. Randa Colomwani, two lovely goals, two really nice finishes. Um, that second goal in particular, the sort of shimmy and rifling the ball into the bottom corner there was really nice. It was really nice to see a sort of player doing that for Spurs, a striker doing that. Like, I do like Dom Solanke, I do like Richarlison, but I feel like the second goal tonight is not something that either of them. I don't want to say they're not capable of, but it's not the sort of goal we see come from them. Um, and I like sort of knowing we got a player that can do that. I mean, like you'd be forgiven for sort of saying that Kala Moani was probably trying to play his way back into the good books at PSG, so went the extra mile tonight, as in like, don't sell me, give me another chance. But whatever, scored a couple of goals for us, didn't he? And hopefully he can carry that form through into the league. Polinia, bit of a weird, I've got to say, a bit of a weird decision. Chasing the game at 5-3, Thomas Frank brings on Polinia. Whatever, is he ever going to beat the allegations? I don't know. Xavi Simons took that nasty elbow. I'm glad my head would have been on like just Mars. It would have been on Jupiter if my big head just swelling, my massive face, my massive head swelling even more as it collides with one of the like Saturn or Jupiter, one of those gaseous bulges. I sort of start to almost like collide with it, and in my own head starts to actually suck up the mass of Saturn or Jupiter. And so you just see my massive head in the night sky, probably mainly for a telescope, but still available via telescope. You just see my massive head up there furiously looking at PSG for not getting a red card. I mean, they did get it in the end, but I thought that penalty against Romero was soft. I'm not going to lie. Can't be bothered to sort of really go into those things. VAR, handballs, what's a handball, what's not. I think it's one of those where I'm like, they get given sometimes, they don't get given at other times. It's often quite sort of inconsistent. That's the word I was looking for. But I would have been livid. But he got the red card. So the night sky right now is safe from my bulbous Aggie face. Doggy, I mean, did he do much when he came on? I can't. Honestly, can I just be real? I don't remember what any of these subs did when they came on. Did they change the game for Spurs at all? I don't think they did they? I'm bidding that off. I'm not doing any more of that. She's sat down again now. I rushed through all the players and do you know what I mean? Babies, like, you're not helping now. Do you know what I mean? I've got Spurs doing this to me. I've got Arsenal winning, and now I've got, babe, what are you now? 7 weeks old? Grow up, you know? Crying because you're hungry. Come on. Yeah. Sort of arrived at one of those points, haven't I, now, where I'm like, I'm just waffling. I'm just talking absolute nonsense. So I reckon I'll call that a night. Thanks everyone for tuned in to the stream. Thank you to everybody that is listening to this in an audio format. Please, as I always say, if you are watching, drop the stream a like. I do appreciate it. It helps other people find it. Blah, 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 blah. If you're listening to the audio version, please leave a rating. Please leave a review. All those things. Much love. Come on, you Spurs. Let's beat Fulham. I will be. Oh, by the way, I'm doing the Thursday Q&A tomorrow. I will be doing the Thursday Q&A tomorrow with Charlie Parish. So send me questions. Send me questions via Twitter. Send me questions on Spotify. There's a comments bit there. Send me questions on YouTube, Instagram, DM, anywhere. To trunk on most of those things. Send me some questions to the pod. Football, obviously, welcome. Non-football, welcome. Everyone is welcome. It is a safe space here. Rule the Roost podcast. Anyway, much love. Goodbye. Come on, you Spurs.